Hey folks, welcome to the SPY Market Internal Review for June 28th, 2023. Started off today with a gap down. We had the first bar closing down even lower as we look to retest yesterday's session TWAP value here around 434. Average tick closures heading down below zero while trend showing a balance, and both the add and vold bands were showing a bearish sentiment overall on the bright red to somewhat lower tone reds, and the downward trends indications on that SMA 20 indicator, those red triangles pointing down. We waffled around here for, a good part of the open session. Had some volatility here sideways, largely stayed around the same price. With TRIN showing a balance, this was definitely the kind of movement I expected, and we really didn't break out of that until about 10:30. We saw that first breakout, strong breakout here after somewhat of an established standard deviation range. We see that first breakout around 10 o'clock and a confirmation entry, at least the way I like to use TWAP standard deviation breaks, around 10:26 Eastern time. The unfortunate thing here is tick closures are actually on a downtrend. We have a potential bullish reversal here on the add and vold, but trend still showing a balance. So I went lighter size here, and overall was incredibly successful. I basically fully exited the position after the gap was filled. I really was not expecting much more than that, given the trend balance and just the overall disparity between add and vold and what actually was going to happen directionally speaking. So seeing that, I'm also looking at previous days high price, which was around 436. The vold yesterday, if you watched yesterday's video, you know that it closed in an extreme bullish high area, and the gap down was a little bit of a surprise. I'm, to a point, I guess I could expect a little bit of a pullback. But yeah, just kind of disappointed to see the add and vold open where they did, and we'll review those charts here in a moment. In the trend balance was a disappointment as well. Definitely the first half of the day was overall quite bullish. We actually did print a new high at 437, almost 437 and a half. Some decent rejections though once we hit that. Seeing a complete retracement back into that lower standard deviation zone here in that 68 percentile area. So complete mean reversion and just a really nasty bar break right down into that low area. We did have an extreme close on the upside for tick and followed it up with an extreme close on the downside of tick, right at 12:16 and almost 1 o'clock. So quite interesting. Not quite this extended, but this is exactly what I expect when I see trend balance. I expect the zigzag or bing bong, depending on what you want to call it, but just a lot of range-based trading. So there are some folks that I trade with that absolutely love it. I personally am more of a trend trader. I like to find the longer running moves, and I took what I could get out of today. I'm pretty happy overall with this, but you can see here, very interestingly, we hit this extreme closure on the bearish side of tick. Even the add and vold bands flipped from full bullish to full bearish so fast. But then notice the tick closures here at the lows, they did not continue to make new lows. Given that trend is a balance indication here with these yellow dots, and we're seeing the higher lows being made in favor, the higher lows being made in divergence from the continual consistent lows on tick. It's a great potential opportunity for a mean reversion, which is exactly what we saw. Now, granted, you had to deal with some very long wicks, but the opportunity was definitely there. We see TWAP session rejection here, and we just continue to oscillate effectively right in this first standard deviation, perfectly demonstrating the whole point of statistical probability, the bell curve, and the measurement of a distribution, and why that measurement of that deviation zone is so effective. You can definitely see how, for the majority of the day, we spent definitely 70% of the time we spent right in this particular area here. Definitely 3/4 of the day. Very fascinating stuff. Highly accurate, I feel. Let's see here. Yeah, so the end of the day, comically, we landed almost right at the top of that upper deviation high, the first deviation high on the session. I couldn't tell you what to expect tomorrow. We'll take a look at Ad and Vold. Overall, I see why TRIN was showing a balance, but I have to say I'm a little bit surprised. I kind of expected a little bit more upside today, a little bit more strength. We just didn't see it though. We'll flip over here to Q, or well, actually, let's see. We'll flip on tick levels here real quick. Yeah, tick levels showing the strong. I mean, after such a strong move here, we built a pivot pretty much right under that ending day range from previous day. We did bust through, printed a new tick level, and we have these fat bars breaking that back down. Look at how we consolidate right on that previous tick pivot. Bam, right back into these lows where we spend a lot of time building up price here at 435.27. So very fascinating. If you are a micro scalper, talk about opportunity here, being able to scalp that range between these two levels back and forth pretty much from 1 o'clock to the end of the day. That's pretty amazing. All right, let's take a look at Qs. Quite the same, although much more volatile. I've noticed SPY seems to be more stable. It's a little more calm. It's not dropping as hard as Qs are. It's not ripping as hard as Qs are. You can see here, though, Qs is definitely, when they ripped, they really ripped. They went way over that previous day high price. Wow. And they dumped right back to session TWAP and then went right back for it again. So where SPY, they hit that lower end of previous day's ending range, they didn't make a new high until what, 12:18. But if you notice, Qs already had made a new high and completely annihilated the ending range for previous day on Qs, dumped back to session TWAP, and then reclaimed that high and made even a little bit newer high. Woo, definitely a lot of strength in those moves. But you gotta have lightning fast fingers to deal with that kind of price movement. I mean, these dumps would have been quite painful to sit through if you were entering from like a first standard deviation break and retest, like right here. But and then yeah, here's the bing bong. We got the standard deviation low, back to TWAP, back to low, back to TWAP, back to low, just the whole time. Interestingly though, we did not close up at the higher end of the first deviation for Qs, but we landed right under previous day high. I'm assuming that's, yeah, previous day's high price. We landed smack dab pretty much right on the dot. So I don't know, that kind of gives me the heebie-jeebies that maybe Qs just aren't going to have the muscle to power us into a bullish close on the week, but that's not based on any of the overall data here and measurements. Take a look at the Russ. Okay. Wow. Russell's had a much different day. So, yesterday's previous high price. Wow, more sector rotation, I feel like. Definitely awful price delivery for somebody that's looking for scalps. This would be more of a all-day kind of hold thing, but took him a long time to break out of that 183, 184 price. But definitely closed up for the day. Most impressive. We got a 182.9 to a 184.3. So that's a decent move for us on the day. It's respectable. And the Dow. Okay, so the Dow had the same kind of end print that the SPY had. So maybe it was really Dow that moved SPY today. Boy, they had a rough time today. We had a gap down just like SPY, dumped hard and never really saw any of that kind of pump. I mean, I guess a little bit here, but didn't clear that range. Shoot, I don't think they did not clear the range at all today. That's interesting, and we basically closed right around yesterday's TWAP. Okay, hopefully we don't get drugged down by the Dow, but that's kind of what it's looking like. Jumping back over to SPY real quick, let's take a look at the weekly TWAP. So weekly TWAP. Okay. Yep, so we had that reclaim that I covered on yesterday's video. Once we had that reclaim, we really moved. And we definitely stayed above the higher deviation. We stayed within the second deviation for the majority of that day until that dump. We lost the second deviation breakout and went back into the lower first deviation high zone. Interesting. Stayed roughly over the 0.5. I'm a big believer in 0.5 of stuff. And this white line here is the previous week's TWAP on the week. So look at all that struggle right there on that. This wick from earlier, this kind of zigzag right around here, this rejection. Fascinating stuff, how those levels seem to work. Even that rejection from yesterday, wow, right on the nose on that level. Even here today. Dang. Okay. Well, if we continue this breakout of the weekly deviation, so we had that range of 435 to 432 with TWAP sitting around 434. If we break out and go higher now, we're looking at 437, 439 even. So we've kind of, yeah, wow, that would be incredible. I would love that. Okay, monthly TWAP here. Let's hide my drawings. Okay, monthly TWAP, we're still nestled within that first deviation high. 437 to 426. How does that compare to the week? Okay, so most of the week is crammed up in the upper half of the monthly TWAP. It's a little bit hard to see. Apologies with all the different lines and everything. So, yeah, I don't know. I'd be surprised to see if we move to like 443. I don't see that, but that's personal speculation. Interesting stuff. Okay, so let's go to the internal raw charts. We'll take a look at tick here. So tick, much like MIT, is not giving us a whole lot of unique clarity that we already don't have. We see the nasty breaks down on the afternoon opening session after lunch. We've got a little bit of the bullish breaks here. Not really big strength, right? It's that close up and then that immediate close down where we had that rejection at that second deviation high on the weekly TWAP. The rest of the time we're mostly staying bullish, but we have some strong enough pulls down that we started to see some weakness in SPY. The TRIN here. So we spent the majority of our time in this stupid balance zone. And we're over the 200, we're over the 20 off and on throughout the day. And fascinating how TRIN prints us a big fat up candle, which is bearish on TRIN, right at the same time SPY is busting through to the upside. So that's odd seeing those two move together. Not much else to say here. As far as the ad goes, we did have an uptrend from lows, but from under the neutral price of 0. This is a ratio chart. Again, if you haven't seen my other videos, I highly recommend it. Some historical levels that we bounced on didn't quite make it to any of our other historical levels. Certainly made it nowhere near where we want to see the majority of NYSEs ripping to great lengths for the bulls. We didn't see that. And this is what I saw in the morning, was this horrible gap down well below 0. That crushed me for a continuation from existing price ending yesterday. When I saw this, I was like, yeah, we're not gonna see a really strong upside day. I mean, they definitely kind of had me fooled there for a little bit when we had that print starting to break out at weekly TWAP highs, but boy, they quickly snuffed that real fast. The Vold, much a similar story. It was not as bad of a start with it starting close to 0. However, if you consider where we started, or where we came from yesterday's close, I mean, this is a massive gap. But yeah, so we broke 0 handful of times, but we just basically stayed within the neutral zone. Nothing really exciting. And with this, it doesn't really provide us a whole lot, or provide me with a whole lot of insight that I feel I can give to anybody watching these videos. Yeah, I don't have a whole lot. I wish I did, but I've got nothing. Let's see here. Let's take a look at VIX. We haven't looked at VIX in a hot minute here. Where's our old friend VIX at? Well, this is not VIX. Here's VIX. Okay, so VIX still continuing the downtrend. Oh, that's sickening. So we have a 9.45 that we experienced in 2018 and 2017. Oh, man. How lame. Maybe we bounce off a... It's sad when I'm hoping for a bounce of VIX at 11.7. But that's the market we've got right now. Nothing really great to say there. I am going to mark this date when we broke below. June 5th, essentially. Okay, well, let's take a look at chips. I was looking at chips today and had a little bit of fun with chips, but they didn't really give much. Basically, exact same movement as SPY. That's interesting, actually. I guess it's more like Qs. That's more like Qs, actually. Let's take a look at Microsoft. Ooh, that's a rough day. Apple. Okay, that one's a lot like SPY. They're still holding their value quite well, though. I mean, they did not gap down with SPY. Okay. All right, folks. Yeah, as far as tomorrow goes, I would just say be smart. Toss a couple levels on. Previous high, previous low. If you're a fan of TWAP, definitely keep using those. When you see this trend balance indication, I would definitely recommend to expect mean reversion. So mean reversion is when we are at the end of the opposite end of the standard deviation. Expect to move back to the opposite end, or at least a reversion back to mean, which in this case is TWAP. at least for intraday. So maybe not for week or month, but for intraday kind of price action, expect some bing bong, some zigzag. And personally, I go lighter size when I'm doing my first deviation breakout and retest trending entries. When I do that kind of setup and trend is showing a balance, I go lighter size. I mean, even today, yeah, if I would have captured with full size on this trade here, we had a trim really close all out of the gate, and it did hit the second price target here. So this was a nice move. It's like $1.87 move that we would have caught. But we had a lot of bing bong here, zigzag inside of the first deviation. So that's why I basically went out on the gap fill here. If it were a cleaner day where trend is showing an imbalance, giving room for a potential price discovery trending kind of move, and the add and void were in full alignment, I would have been in heavy size and holding through a lot more what hopefully would be more smoother movement, not like this here. So just a recommendation if you're using TWAP and the rest of the indicators. That pretty much wraps it up for today, folks. Hope you enjoyed. If you've got any other recommendations or questions, feel free to reach out in the comments. It does motivate me when people reach out. And until next time, thank you for watching and happy trading.